Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strides Professor, and today we're going to be starting a brand new campaign with Kurgath, with Nurgle, remastered. I redid the audio on it. I know the first one, it was my first campaign that I'd done on Warhammer 3, and the audio settings were a little off. The game sound was a bit louder. I heard you guys in the comments, so I really appreciate you guys letting me know that. I did have like 20 episodes recorded with that, but I don't mind, because Nurgle's my favorite faction. I'll explain why, going through this again. And I've learned a lot of things, too. In those 20 turns, I'm a lot more streamlined, and I kind of understand it a lot better anyways. So I think it'll be better content for you in general, hopefully. As long as I don't get wiped out, like, super early on, which I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and do this. I'll go ahead and link a guide if you want to know a more in-depth guide about it up at the upper right at the start. And then at the very end, there will be links to a tier list that I did and some of the other campaigns that I'm running and other guides that I have as well. So be sure to always check out the very end of the video if you want some links to those other things. And I'll maybe put some links in the description as well. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get in here. So I do think that Nurgle overall is the strongest faction. I know that's a hot take. Almost every other content creator does not like Nurgle. Like, they'll literally put Nurgle as the last one. I could see a conversation for maybe putting Nurgle second or third, but I think that last is ridiculous, and I'll show you why once we get in there, and hopefully as we start rampaging in this campaign. So, what's so good about Nurgle? Let's start with the faction effects. You get plus 10 growth in every province, so that's okay. You do have a lot of growth in general. Minus 35% for Nurglings, that's huge. They're already cheap, and now they're going to be super cheap, and you get 40% replenishment on Nurgles when you hire them. So usually when you hire a unit, it starts off at low health and then it has to heal up over time. But with Nurglings, they're going to come in much healthier. So this means you can globally recruit Nurglings to help you defend a town, for example. If someone's attacking, you can just buy like 15 Nurglings. And when you do that, you're going to be able to have a really good defense of the town. So they're one of the best defensive factions in the game. As far as holding your towns, which is good because your buildings are super expensive. And then ward effects, you get 50% off of the infection cost of putting a plague on Kurgath, or Kugath. That's very helpful in the early game as you're trying to level up your plagues. You don't have a lot of properties yet. Extra Nurgle corruption everywhere is solid, and then your plagues spread have a 15% extra chance to spread. Okay, so campaign legendary, battle very hard, let's go. Okay, so the standard narrative about Kugath that people say is, well, all of the units are super slow and they're going to be very vulnerable to missiles, magic, just getting kited, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really overblown. It's like, yes, super high-level archers can be pretty good against Nurgle, but you're going to be able to regenerate through most things if you are getting the correct plagues, if you're getting the correct skills. And I think a lot of it comes down to building optimization and plague optimization, because I think they probably are the most complex faction in terms of city management. And I think a lot of other content creators just don't really understand how that stuff works. Good content creators, too, that are usually on top of this stuff. So it's a little surprising that I seem to be one of the only ones that seems to explain Nurgle well. So I'll show you as soon as I get in there. But basically, you want to try to rush to Soul Grinders. You want to get the building that has Forsaken, Spawn, and Soul Grinders in it, because you can get those Soul Grinders with a Tier 3 town. And I'm just going to skip the introduction. If you want to see it, it's all over YouTube. But just to save a little time, because this first episode will probably be me talking a little bit more than I usually would like to. Okay. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Alright. So this is the key to being strong with Nurgle. This is a huge part of it, is you want this Rancid Aloe building ASAP in a lot of situations. And the reason for that is there's a few things. Number one, it only takes Tier 3 to unlock Soul Grinders. And the way that this is laid out, I think, is confusing for a lot of people. I had some people ask me in the comments about it. Pretty much, when you hover over one of these buildings, you'll get several pieces of information. Number one, it'll tell you which cycle it's in. So just these Roman numerals are just which cycle it's in. That doesn't really affect anything. It just means that you have to go through 5 cycles to get to the Soul Grinder. Okay? And then you have a little hourglass above this. This is how many turns it takes to get through a cycle. Once you get through a cycle, you get one unit that is portrayed there as part of the cycle in the upper right. So as soon as this goes through 4 turns, then I'm going to get a Forsaken of Nurgle building. Okay? And then it's going to move on to the next cycle. So once you complete this, when you go to the next one, once it goes down 4 more turns, then you get another Forsaken, and so on and so forth. So the baseline is 4 turns, and then usually the very last one in the cycle takes 5 turns, because that's your most elite unit. Okay, so that's how it works. It's 4 turns, 4 turns, 4 turns, 4 turns. Now, when you see this, this is the level of the settlement where this building is built that is required to move to that cycle. So, for example, if you just have a Tier 1 settlement, you can go here, it'll cycle to here, but then if it's not Tier 2, it'll just go back to here because it cannot cycle this one yet. It cannot process it. Okay? But once you have a Tier 2 building, then it will go up and give you this cycle as well. So then it'll give you the spawn. Okay? And then you need a Tier 3 building to get over and get this spawn. However, once you get your Tier 3, then there's no other check marks, or checkpoints, I should say, that you need. And so you get to go all the way down to Soul Grinders. So you only need a Tier 3 building in order to cycle over to Soul Grinders. Okay? And this is a clutch unit. This is like the linchpin that makes this campaign as strong as it is. Now, you would still be really strong even without Soul Grinders, for being honest, but the Soul Grinders fix a lot of things that people complain about with Nurgle. They're very good against enemy archers because they have high armor, they have the physical resist, and they have explosive damage. They do. So they do really good spread damage versus infantry. They're very fast for Nurgle units at 75. They have armor-piercing weapon damage, so they fix literally everything people complain about. And all you need is just a couple of them, and they're a powerhouse. They're basically like an artillery piece that can also fight. So they're really strong. Now, the fact this is basic military building is also really important for a few reasons. Number one, you can get a plague symptom over here, this violent spasms, that lowers the cycle time for military buildings. So that's going to take it from 4 for most of those cycles down to 3. There's also a technology that you can get that is going to increase the Rancid Aloe building chain. Now, I think it's a little bit deeper. I can't remember exactly where it is. That's Living Tree. I think this one's Rancid Ally. Yeah. So you have to get over to here, but this will also reduce the cycle time for 1 on Rancid Aloe buildings. You want to rush this ASAP. Okay? So that's -2. Now it's just 2 turns per cycle if you do that. And then there's a infrastructure building you can get. This over here, Carnivorous Compost. This lowers the cycle time of all basic military buildings by 1. So now you've got -3. So guess what? That means every single turn, you're going to either get a Forsaken or you're going to get a spawn, and then eventually you're going to get a Soul Grinder off of each one of these buildings in every town. So you can comfortably put these in every town, pretty much, and it's just going to crank all of these units for you constantly. So as you gain more property, you're going to continually be getting fed more Forsaken, more Chaos Spawn, and then eventually Soul Grinders. And you can hire them anytime, anywhere on the map. So it's 1-turn global recruitment. Extremely strong. If you understand, like once you play it and you see it's different from other factions, but that is very, very good because most Soul Grinders require a Tier 5 building, which takes forever in Warhammer 3, because if you don't have perfect public order, which is really hard to pull off on Legendary, if you don't have really high public order, then you're going to get hits to your growth. And so it's going to take a while to get up to Tier 5, and then if you want to hire the Tier 5 units, you're going to have to global it. A lot of times they are 2 or 3 turns to recruit them, which means if you global it, it's going to be 4 to 6 turns to globally recruit some of those units. So it takes a long time to be able to even recruit them, and then also just to get them out into your army when you're going over, taking out the rest of the world. But these can be globaled anywhere in 1 turn. I can't state just how strong that is once you get to it. So this is really where you want to be. This is what you want to focus on in the early game. This is pretty good too, the Plaguefish Poppies, or the Plague Flesh Poppies. Similar setup to this one. However, you're only getting Plague Bearers, and I would not get these with Kugath unless you're just like ultra rich, because the Nurglings are just going to be a better bargain most of the time. But with your secondary lords, these can actually be a pretty good bargain. There are some technologies and some ward skills that buff them up pretty well. And it's not as much. You're not losing as much as a value proposition getting these with other people, because with Kugath you can get double regeneration on the Nurglings. I think you get like minus 25% upkeep, so you get all these bonuses to Nurgling. So it really kind of forces you to go Nurglings on him if you're trying to be really cost effective most of the time. The other lords aren't going to have all that, so you're losing less opportunity cost by getting Plague Bearers versus Nurglings. So you still want Nurglings a lot of times with your other armies, but in kind of that mid to late game where you want a more professionalized army against, tier 3 or tier 4 stacks, then the Plague Bearers can be pretty good, especially once you get the money to afford them. So getting these is pretty reasonable early on. I would almost always get these first. And the thing is, like, Chaos Spawn are sort of close to these in cost, and I just think they are a lot more effective. And the thing that makes the Spawn better with Nurgle than with a lot of other factions, first of all, you have really good protection on their flanks, so you just kind of sprinkle these in there with your Nurglings, and they're going to be able to put out pretty strong damage over time. They also have much higher melee defense because they get this Cloud of Fly, so they effectively have 37 melee defense. They have Poison, which lowers damage. And the fact that they have a lot of health per model means that your regeneration magic is going to be incredibly powerful against these, or with these guys. So I think that the Spawn are deceptively really strong and not talked about a lot for Nurgle, whereas they're not as good with other factions typically because you have better options. But with Nurgle, you're going to get them anyways while you're trying to get to the Soul Grinders, so you might as well. And then these Forsaken, similarly, are also pretty good. There are more models of those, so they don't sprinkle in quite as well with a bunch of Nurglings as the Spawn do, but they're good, and especially at running around and trying to mess with archers, because you don't have a lot of options with Nurgle to do that early on. But these are like surprisingly pretty good, especially against Tzeentch in the early game. Because Tzeentch doesn't have a lot of armor piercing. I believe their pink horrors and their blue horrors are fire and magic, and these guys have a lot of armor, so they can face tank a lot of that ammunition from those dudes. And they're relatively fast for Nurgle at 42. Now, the other stuff I really would not get most of the time unless you're just super well established in the game. These Toads are okay. They are good units. It's just the problem is they require their own building in order to get them. So, I don't know. I guess I could see an argument maybe for getting the Toads over the Plagueflesh Poppy buildings. So that could be true. They are pretty fast. You can sprinkle these in and they do pretty well into other infantry units, and especially the riders later on. Like 64 weapon strength with the +7 versus infantry is pretty good, and you can get some okay buffs for them. So I could see getting those instead of Plague Bearers, but these are like, you get a lot of buffs for these, and this is a really strong late game replacement for Nurgling. So I don't know. I think you kind of want to stock up on these, but I could see an argument for these. But the problem is they require their own separate buildings, so you have to choose basically. Do you want these or do you want the Plague Bearers most of the time? Because you got to have this, and you got to have the military building over here. So if it's a tier 3, you get one other building, And then as far as advanced military, I wouldn't mess with these most of the time. And again, unless you're super rich late game. First of all, they're 10,000 gold each, which is super expensive. A lot of their good stuff is gated behind tier 4 and tier 5. So if you want the great unclean ones, that's tier 5. If you want these plague drones, you're only going to get one per cycle. You don't get the benefits of the -1 cycle time on basic military that you can get with the infrastructure building and with the plague. So it's going to take a lot longer to cycle through these. With the Wasps, these Chaos Furies are pretty garbage, and that's all you're getting for the first couple of rotations. The Wasps are okay, the Rot Flies, but you can achieve a similar type of effect with as far as like flanking with either the Chaos Spawn or the Forsaken, and then the Soul Grinders are going to help you deal with ranged units anyways. So they're okay. It's just they're really expensive. There are a lot of cycles. There are, 8 different cycles here instead of 4 or 5. So it takes a while to get to that, and you just don't have as many bonuses. So I would not do the advanced buildings for a really long time, if ever. Super late game, the Beasts of Nurgle are very good. It's a shame because they're one of your best units in the early game, but I still just think that 10,000 is just too rough. for the Beast of Nurgle, especially because, again, you're not going to get that cycle time with your military. So they are good units. I've had people ask me about those in the comments. It's just the fact that you have to get that 10,000 gold building is really harsh. And then as far as these like utility buildings go, Carnivorous Compost, I talked about this. This is really good. It also helps you out a little bit on siege defense. And you've got this, which is okay for spreading corruption and replenishment. Your replenishment's already going to be high. Your corruption's already going to be high. So typically you don't want to do this unless you're just entering into an area that has no corruption. The control is not usually a big deal, but if you need it, you can get that sometimes. The growth is good if you're trying to get your town up to tier 3s everywhere, which I think that's one of the best ways to do it. Is good. As far as your money goes, you do make some money when these things cycle through. You get like 180 gold, all that kind of stuff, but where you're going to make most of your money is from sacks and from winning in post-battle loot and that type of thing. There is a plague that gives you a ton of gold that most people overlook. This thing right here, sacking and looting settlements, you get plus 250% money, so you get like 30,000 gold on some sacks. So it is very strong. You do have to go down the Bubo's tree. So when you're looking at these specialty plagues, and these are super strong, and I think we'll fight a battle here and then go into it more, but basically the specialty plagues are always one of these base plagues plus the tier 3 symptom in that tree, and then it's like one other tier 1 symptom from another tree. So for example, to get the crumbling egg, it requires egg, mucus runs, and pestilence. So we've got egg up here, we've got mucus runs down here, and then pestilence is right next to it with 35% attrition. And this is actually, I think, the best one most of the time because you get that 35% replenishment. And that means that you can hire units globally, and then they're almost going to be full health immediately. So it's really good for defending against backdooring and stuff like that because you can just hire a ward in the next town over, recruit a bunch of units, and then go over there and take them down. But early on, I think you want to go with Rot, just because it gives you extra Nurglings whenever it spreads. And then the Rot Plague, Nurgle's Rot. This is a really good one late game. You get 20% physical resistance. So that takes all of your units up to 40% physical resistance, and you have a ton of regeneration, and you have really high melee defense. You're extremely durable, and part of it, your gameplay in late game can be this Nurgle's Rot. Okay, so we want to go ahead and put Rot on Nurgle himself, or Kugath himself. So you have to select the unit that you want, click on this, click on the plague that you want. We want Rot, because again, we want a lot of Nurglings, and just infect. Now there's a chance when we fight this army and they run, they might get that plague. So then we get an extra spread. Because a spread counts when you put it on your own units, but also when it spreads over to enemy units. That counts as a spread. So it's not like you have to cast it 50 times to get to the last symptom, it just has to spread 50 times. And there are a lot of different ways you can do that. Okay. And then like I said early on, it is tough to buy this. It might, we'll see, it might be worth just getting the growth instead, just to try to get up to tier 3. But you are in danger if you try to advance too much in the early game. Then you do run the risk of getting sacked. So if you get sacked with a 5,000 gold building, that's really bad. Alright, so we'll go ahead and fight. Like I said, I do want to do some talking here, just with stuff I've learned, just to help you out in your own campaign, and also because the audio was kind of bad last time, and again, I apologize for that. When I'm hearing it through my headphones, it sounds all good, but then when I go back and listen to the replay, it was bad. So I did a mic check, and I thought it was okay at the start, but I just underestimated it, and then I just recorded a ton of episodes in a row before I get the comments, before I get the feedback, just to make sure that I'm not going to die, you know, on turn 10 and in the campaign. So that was my bad. I'll do more extensive testing of that in the future. So I appreciate everyone kind of telling me about it. Okay. So usually you can force them to come to you. That's another thing a lot of people underestimate, is they're like, oh, well, you know, you're so slow to run at them if they have a bunch of archers. It's like, yeah, but here's the thing. Kugath is basically a siege engine also, so you're going to force them to come to you. And you can get Vanguard that really popular plague that I was talking about that gives you the 35% replenishment also gives your entire army Vanguard. So I've had some content creators say, oh, you don't have Vanguard with any of your units. It's like, yeah, you do. First of all, the Nurglings come with Vanguard. And then second of all, you can give your whole army Vanguard. So, again, it's a lot of misinformation about Nurgle out there. From, like, good, knowledgeable content creators. I don't want to call anyone out specifically. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But, so no shade, no hate. It's just, I'm usually not this far off of the meta, right? In terms of, like, what's good and what's not. Most people have sort of a consensus about some things that are good. But this is very different. Okay. Put that. Another, just a basic thing, too, is I don't know why more people, like, nobody uses these hotkeys that I see. It just seems like they just all click. It's just like click, click, click. I mean, I don't know. From, like, back in my StarCraft days, it's just all about those hotkeys. So you see he throws this stuff at him, and he's pretty good. Like, it's basically like you start with a pretty nice siege weapon with him. Nurgle doesn't have any ranged units. The freaking legendary lord is basically a cannon. Someone pointed out, overcasting this is pretty good. It doesn't last for that long, 21 seconds. I mean, the main thing is, like, that's good, but the healing is just so OP late game that you really just want to cast Fleshy Abundance. Which I'll talk about all that stuff a lot more. I just want to get some fights in here, too, because I don't want the whole episode to be talking, because it's not supposed to just be a guide. I will link the guide if you do just want a more in-depth guide. But I do want to break up some of the talking with some actual fights. Alright, let's just send her... Okay, they're rallying. That's fine. I am going to do Ogres as well, if you're interested in Ogres. I've already recorded, like, maybe 10 episodes of them. These guys are taking a beating here, but I'm probably just going to dismiss them anyways, to be honest. So it's not going to matter too much. You can use them to take down towers and sieges, but frankly, you don't need to do that. They're just not... They're just not that great. It's okay if you get shot. Like, who cares? Like, these little arrow towers don't do anything to Nurgle. It really doesn't matter. Like, these are nice at, like, running stuff down and killing people, but the toads can do that too. And these wasps are really good at it too. These wasps are a lot better than people give them credit for. I mean, they're not, like, insane, but they're not as horrible as people say a lot of the time. Like, they're not designed to be shock cavalry, you know? They have very heavy armor-piercing damage and really heavy melee defense for an air unit. So you can just get down behind people and just cut off their retreat to start attacking them. Yeah, just start attacking them, and they can just hang in there and do all right, you know? So you just kill all of them. Yo, stop firing though. Okay, got him. Kill all these so they don't run off somewhere and not give us a chance to attack. We'll move these. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I mean, again, I just kind of let the Harpies take some hits. I could have not done that, but we'll probably delete them in short order. They're not that expensive. They're like 125, but they're like the price of 2 Nurglings, and I think Nurglings are just going to be better. I'm not entirely sure if I should have killed them all. I mean, maybe... I don't know if there's a chance they could get the plague or not. Get the plague and then check and see that they're dead. Weapon strength's kind of whatever. I think we'd go with the infections early. Usually if you can get 10 to 1, that's a good bargain. So like if it was 500 gold versus 50 infections early. But definitely at this rate, you want the infections, I think. Shove them into my vats. Okay, nice. Alright, so we're gonna... We just want to go down the blue tree as much as we can just to get the cost reduction. This is what I do on almost all wards on Legendary. You just want to get Blessed by Blight, and then Renowned and Feared, and then probably this Pestilential Spawnings, just the extra 6% replenishment is really nice. Casualty replenishment is one of the best stats in the game in general. So that has been nerfed. This used to be 15% off, and now it's 9. And then this one I think is still 8, so you get 17% off. Because the red tree is okay. Like, this is good with your secondary lords, like getting the extra 6 melee defense and 12 armor for Plague Bearers, Spawn, and Forsaken. We're obviously going to have a lot of those, so that's pretty good. Nurgle has very good lord-specific stuff up here. So Nurgling Tide gives you some extra Nurglings that can explode if you want to do that. 5 defense for Nurglings. Get extra plague-ridden, extra chance of spreading a plague. All armies, 50%. It's extremely good. Giggling Grenades is kind of whatever. It's a little bit of extra damage. This is one of the big ones I was talking about. 25% for Nurgling units off of recruitment and upkeep, and they get regeneration. He also has an aura, this one right here, which gives them extra replenishment. It doesn't count as them having the trait regeneration, I don't believe, so it does overlap with the other one. So they just get a lot of free regeneration. And then this is like, okay, sort of, later, and then this is really good if you eventually get to the unclean ones, which require a tier 5 building, so... And it's an advanced military building, so you're not going to be able to get a lot of those, but if you do, those are okay. But yeah, mostly blue tree early on. And as far as techs, like I said, you really want to... The big ones are Fecundity. This is your army ability you want to use most of the time. Gives you a ton of replenishment on up to 5 units. So that's really good. And then getting to this cycle time on Rancid Aloe buildings. Those are the most important things to get to. As far as early on goes, that's cycle time for the Plague Flesh Poppies. If you want to go for those, for the Plague Bearers, that can be pretty good. This seems good, this total favor plus 150, but I don't know, I haven't tried it. If you ever do this, it'll be really late game, because usually the named plagues are better, and any of these technologies you get are not part of named plagues. So all of these are just extra build your own plague type of stuff if you want to do that, but these named plagues are the best ones, because it's not just what this says, that it's the +5 turns, extra Nurgle corruption, regeneration, growth. It's that in addition to all of the symptoms. So I can't show you that over here, but it's like a million things for each one of these. So that's why you want to be using these named plagues most of the time. Like I said, this replenishment one is really good. The physical resist one is really good. And then this, the big money one is nice too, early on, the 20-something% from sacking. Now, Bubo's is like okay early on, but not amazing. It just like does attrition stuff and defensive supplies, which don't matter that much. So that kind of stuff is, you know, really not that great, but getting 250% gold from sacks is really good. So it's kind of balanced around the fact that it's difficult to justify the cost. Okay, so let's go ahead and get another fight. And just while you're trying to level up these plagues, don't worry about putting a bunch of symptoms on there. Just use base plagues. Okay, so we're just going to encircle. Okay, so we get a little bit of that. Trying to think of what else, little tips and tricks with him. I am going to hire another lord here. If you have to, you can do the kind of cheese where you can raid or sit there and recruit with one of your units and then go in ambush stance with Kugath. That can be helpful if people are constantly trying to backdoor you. I didn't do it that much in my other campaign, but I do think that having an extra lord early is nice because the opportunity cost is not that high. It's just 4% extra tax on both armies. And they don't cost that much personally. I think they're like 250 gold or something a turn. And it just kind of allows you to start leveling someone else up and get them ready to go for when you want to transition to another army. And you will need multiple armies probably to handle everything they're going to be throwing at you. Now he can fire while moving too, I'm pretty sure. So like while you're running up, he's still going to be firing. Okay, so what we want to do is set up right here so they will put their tower and all their units over here, and then we just want to rotate and run up here. Now Nurgle doesn't do that as well as other factions. They're probably actually the worst at that compared to other factions. But it's still helpful just to pull the old switcheroo on them. Once we get stronger, we can just run it up the middle. Okay. A little careful with the toads.
Infection is inevitable.
Yeah, they might actually just die. The harpies. Yeah, it's not great. Which again, is fine. I would just delete them anyways. It doesn't matter. They're bad. Get... The AI on the wasps can be sort of annoying sometimes. Like, I'm clearly trying to tell him to run and he just keeps fighting. Let's just go over here and take this area. Those out of there.
My experiment succeeds. Over here. A new brew. Nurgle's pestilent remastered. To die, plague come. Slaughter them.
Yeah, let's just fight this dude here, I think. Alright, let's just go try to kill these things. They might lose the toads here too. Which again are like okay, but they're not insane. Sorry, just eating one chip there. Hopefully that's not too annoying. Yeah, I mean, they focus Kugath a lot, whatever. It's fine. We can just be more careful with him in the next fight if we need to. We should get some good replenishment. Yeah, we don't have enough to sack. A lot of times sacking and then occupying is a good option. Sometimes on a port it's not good, so it's going to cost a lot of money to repair the port. Okay. So I think just loot. Looter.
Yes, this will aid my studies.
And then we just want to get to Fleshy Abundance. Like, this is a super spell. Once you level this up, it's something like 32 or 33% healing for the max, like, of your max health healing. And it's a big area, 35 meter range, or 35 meter diameter, and there's no cap. So in the past, life magic, I believe, was capped at 4 units. So you can only hit 4 units with it. But now there's a hard cap on healing for every unit in a battle. I don't remember how much it is. It's probably 100% of their health or something. But there's no limit to the amount of things you can hit. So you can hit all 20 of your units with Fleshy Abundance, and you want to be grouped up anyways with a huge pile of Nurglings sprinkled in with some Chaos Spawn or whatever. And so you're just going to heal your whole army for 32%. So that's like the most powerful thing you can be doing most of the time with Magic. So I would just go 3 Stream of Corruption, Nurgle's Children, just to give you, you know, a little bit of early game power with Stream of Corruption, which is good. And then after that, just Fleshy Abundance everywhere. There are some places where maybe use Blight Boil. This does quite a bit of damage, 72. AoE. To everybody, it's a really big hitbox, but typically if it's a long fight, you're probably going to kill them anyways. That can be helpful if they have a bunch of piled up blue horrors or pink horrors or something like that. If they're grouped up, that can kill a bunch of them. So there are some uses, but these other things, this Curse of the Leper, probably not that great. Like the 60 armor and the damage reflection is okay, but again, you're going to win all melee scrums, basically. Rancid Visitation is okay for picking off some elite units, possibly like some bears, some Kislev bears, maybe something like that, but in general, I think it's too expensive. It's very similar to like Fate of Buna, but I think Fate of Buna might be better. I'm not 100% on the math there. But the main attraction is just Fleshy Abundance. Okay, so we've got that. We've got our port. I think we probably... I don't know if we want to go for this yet or not, or if we just want to go for growth. Growth is cheaper to put everywhere. So we do want to get up to tier 3. Getting some Forsaken early can be good, especially getting to spawn early, but... I think we probably just need to save our money. So we might just put a growth building there and then just sell it later. Don't forget, you can always sell buildings if you need to. Like a growth building, you can sell it back, I think, for like 1,600 or something. And it does give you some money over time. Okay. But here, I do want to summon a second ward, though. So we can go ahead and start leveling him up. So yeah, he's only 275 a turn. What is Tactician? And you want the Nurgle magic, like I said, for Fleshy Abundance. Death magic is okay, but I don't think it's nearly as good as Nurgle magic. Okay, so Tactician, I guess. Then we want probably Beast.
More plague splitters are useful.
Okay, then we want to go for Glut Port. We are in the negatives now. Okay. So it's not fantastic, but I think it's okay early on. And then I think +4 leadership for Nurglings is okay, but it's not that great. Chaos Furies, that one's kind of bad. Guess let's get Spore Diffusion. Again, not fantastic, but... No, actually... Yeah, let's get that first, I suppose.
An aid to the blade.
Okay. So we have all that, so you see our units get recruited at, like, fairly low health, and then they, like, heal back up over time. Alright. So we're not going to do any buildings here yet. We're just going to wait, because we don't have enough money to handle it. And then this, you just get extra replenishment per turn, but you can't move for 2 turns, so that's kind of a feels bad. We could put another plague on him, but we're kind of low on infections, so I think we'll just chill for now. It's possible that it's correct to get rid of the rot flies, but you can only do, I think, 2 plagues a turn typically as well, so keep that in mind. But you got to be sort of selective. We could put a growth plague, but again, money's the major issue right now, rather than the growth. But we'll see how this goes here in a second.
Seek fresh experiments.
Okay, so I do want to be able to sack that does not have a port. Okay. We can increase certain plagues. I guess we'll go with this. Now, green pox, I think, is the, yeah, the 50 growth everywhere, which is pretty good. Yeah, palsy is that one. So, yeah, the 2 that are, like, that you really want early, the sack money and the replenishment, are kind of bad. Crumbling egg. This one, like I said, I feel like this one's probably the best. But you do want all of them eventually. Alright, let's just throw down one of these here. Just for the growth.
Dad, I want to go to the yard.
Okay, we might be able to do that in just a little bit. No, I'm not going to cheese it either. I'm aware there are probably some cheeses where you can like trade units back and forth with each other and maybe get a plague. I just don't like doing cheese in my campaign if I can help it. Okay, so we've got sock. You want some sake, Rory?
Ew.
Thinks it's like eating socks. Talking to her. She's playing restaurant the other day.
Dissolve their flesh. Make them rot.
Okay, how much? I didn't see how much movement we have. I think we have enough to sack and occupy, though. Now, one thing that can be a little spooky is like right here is where it gets interesting because you have to decide, are you going to go south and try to take out that port, or are you going to stay north and deal with the dwarves? So not taking out that port, annoying because ogres can be sort of tricky. You know, if they get like a 20 stack of ogre bulls, like You can beat that, but it's gonna be a little more challenging. What are you trying to do, Rory? You trying to get up in the picture for a little bit?
Is that you, Dad?
Yeah, it's Daddy hanging out there, isn't it? Is that Rory? I see. She likes the camera, don't you? You're doing a silly face. Oh, goodness. Okay. Alright, Daddy's got to pwn some noobs here.
Ew.
He's going to need both of his arms. Okay.
Dad, are you done talking?
No, Daddy's still got to talk. Daddy's never done talking.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay, you want to lay down with Daddy's Poe in the, in your clubhouse? You want to go lay in your clubhouse for a little bit? Yeah, you can eat some chips too. Ooh, that sounds good.
These plain ones?
Yeah, those are some plain chips, aren't they? Okay, so dude's coming in, reinforcements, it doesn't matter.
Not gonna make them this one.
Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. It's not gonna matter. Okay, there's the place where we want to get to. Oh, okay, yeah. I know this place. Yeah, the best place on this particular town is to try to come in this way, because these towers won't be able to shoot you as easily, versus if you come in this way, you're going to be getting destroyed by these towers over here. So you want to come in right here. There are going to be 2 towers there, potentially. But you just take this right here if you can. And I think that's just one of the best ways to do it. Okay. Oh, they put their tower up there. Huh, that's interesting. I guess that tower can still fight for a little while. I guess I could have put those on there before the charge bonus or whatever, but it's gonna matter. It doesn't do that much versus ogres. Okay. These things are starting to fire on us now. It's not gonna matter, just run him over here. Oh, I should have done it right there, maybe.
Blade sword. Ready. Zelda. Obey.
Aiming for the flies. They love doing that.
Superior position. Bringing forth. The target play. Play
Another chip.
moving.
Oh, good. Okay, I think they're all about to run.
Grandfather asks it.
So my wizard is taking a few hits there. So sacking this one I think is probably okay. We'll see how much money we could get off of it. If your town is sacked, just kind of a weird little trick. If your buildings are injured, then you actually get more infections for the buildings per turn. You typically get 1 per turn per level, I believe. And now you're going to get 2. Oh, sweet. Potion of speed. Heck yeah. Now, this might be better than it seems, because I believe that still will help you against... I don't know if it helps you against magical attacks. It did in Warhammer 2. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, that's good, huh? Okay.
Look at me, Daddy.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Alright. Okay, so yeah, I think we'll just sack for the money.
We're taking that back.
Also, if they're gonna take your towns anyways, like, they might backdoor you early. Okay, go ahead. This doesn't matter as much, I think, the growth or whatever. 5 growth. Like, you're already gonna have a lot of growth, and your buildings are so expensive that, that you can't, like, do a lot with the growth anyways, right? Like, I know I'm doing the plague for the growth, but that's because I need to spread that plague anyways. Okay, so same drill. Now, if you don't know, when you get this guy up to tier, or like level 15 or something, you can turn him into an exalted great unclean one. So he basically turns into more like a Kugath kind of character. He doesn't have all of the same like stuff up here, but he can get Foetid Stench, which is pretty strong, and Pestilent Decay, which is pretty strong. And just a few other things. He's just better in general once you can upgrade him. But it does take you back down to level 7 when you do that. You get refunded your skills.
I
Okay, so yeah, you'll notice this is 2 infections per turn because it's broken, and this one only gives you 1 infection per turn. So yes, you are losing 50 gold per turn to do that, but you're getting an infection for it at least. And again, they are likely to come and sack this, probably, depending on what you choose to do early on. There's a good chance they might come and sack it anyways, so... She's in here. She's in the clubhouse.
Do you want a hot dog?
Hot dog?
I love hot dogs.
Now getting 10 growth in these settlements up here. I mean, that is good. 4 leadership on Nurglings can come in handy. I guess we'll...
Wait up!
And we do want this eventually. So yeah, I guess. It's like we're going to get all 3 of those probably. It's like which one's most relevant. I guess maybe we'll start with this one.
The rot horde.
Because the Nurglings won't run, but they can get broken leadership. Another one of those. I can't believe they're still 90 upkeep. I thought they were way cheaper than that. I thought they're like 70 or something. I guess maybe it's because of the 4% upkeep reduction. Okay. Wait, did I not hire it?
Join the grandest experiment.
Okay, I don't know if we had a quest to get 20 units or not. How many? So we have 50. Yeah, so we're just gonna wait on that. So see, we've spread this because it's bounced around. We've already spread it 5 times, so we've already got down to this one. And I mean, still getting this plague is nothing to sneeze at. Like the big money is this other one, but you know, these symptoms, like this is still a really good plague. Like you end up being able to summon 2 free plague bearers anywhere on the map. When it spreads, you get extra Nurglings, which is good. So it's still like, it's pretty good. I think the extra Nurglings is massive early game though. Okay, go in here. Okay, so we'll just get to the end of this turn. We're already at 103. I wanted to keep it under an hour, but usually I'll try to make these episodes 45 minutes to an hour. But hopefully, this has been much better audio, helping you out. I'm coming at it with a little bit more knowledge, even than I had in the first campaign. We're here to an interesting crossroads. This is where it can get dicey, where you have to decide what do you want to do. You can go for Clan Helene early on if you want to, or you can go try to kill the rest of these ogres. So they still have, I believe, a 20 stack sitting around here somewhere. So you kind of have to decide, are you going to try to defend this area, or are you going to go down here and, like, take these ogres? What I did last time and what I recommend is you just run down here as fast as possible and get this port out of the way so they don't have a staging ground to, like, come over here and start sailing their ships around. Because once you get this handled, like, these guys will usually be chill with you early. Now, once Kislev comes through here, that is going to be a problem, but that's later. So this will at least close off one flank where you could get attacked. And you're probably going to come in, like, the dwarves are probably going to come in and threaten this. And usually there's, like, an ogre camp up here, and they might come in and threaten this. The ogres do still have an army somewhere on the map right now. It says that, see that old red bar, so that means they have something. They only have 1 town, though. So if we do knock this out, that'll help. Now, keep in mind that, like, these other things, it really doesn't matter if they take these right now. Like, it's annoying, but I don't have any, it's just all tier 1s with no other buildings in it. So it's not, like, the biggest deal in the world if they take these towns. Right? Like, yeah, there might be a rebellion, blah, blah, blah. Like, we can just take them back. It's not a huge problem. We just want to try to close out the flanks as much as we can so that we can just focus, you know, our 1 army and some change here on pushing forward and probably heading north into Tzeentch territory. But anyways, that's going to be it. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Sorry for, like I said, the audio with the previous iteration. Hopefully you guys don't mind me restarting this. I hope I brought some new, fresh knowledge to you. And now we're going to have a nice, clear audio recording that should be a great campaign with Nurgle. So, thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.